Hooves and paws flew, and when the smoke cleared, the pot belonged to the dog. Buddy was right. This mutt was a cheat. This powder has zing, yapped Rex as he splashed on more. And later, a hot bubble bath. Rex was about to cram his winnings into his hat when Buddy grabbed it, then snatched Grumpy's derby and flung it at the dog. "Here," said Buddy, "take his. Your head is too small for such a big haul." Grumpy frowned, but he'd gotten Buddy into this mess. Rex noted their long faces and also thought it wise not to complain. Dumb horses, thought he. But as soon as the dog was gone, Buddy whinnied with glee. "What's so funny?" snapped Grumpy. "We've been fleeced." "Maybe, but I'll bet we'll have the last laugh yet." "How so?" "My dear Grumpalumplus, that wasn't flea powder." "No? What was it?" "Flea chowder, old chap. Now every flea around will want a bite of that clown." "Pal, I have a secret too." "Oh?" "That wasn't bubble bath. That was Mrs. Mump's hair remover. If it can keep her legs clean, it should do wonders for our friend." "Ha!" They bucked with abandon. "Ha!" Then right on cue, 52 high-step and sequin showgirls costumed as playing cards appeared, and Buddy and Grumpy, outfitted as the Joker's Wild, razzled and dazzled their way through a clip-clopping, eye-popping, show-stopping production number. In a word, wow. Ah, if life were a musical, the world would never lack for magic. And what is more magical than when boy meets girl? Unlucky at cards? Lucky in love? A few bars of papa, and off to the fair. Everyone loves a fair. The cotton candy, the carousel, the colored balloons. Nobody was a bigger kid than Grumpy. He could ride the Ferris wheel forever. But for Buddy, the main attraction was under the big top. Acrobatic Lil on the white mare Flo. Buddy instantly fell for Flo. He fell for her painted hooves, and he fell for her dainty pink bow. Buddy was smitten. Weaker than a kitten. How to woo her, how to make her his. Something to impress, but what? He took off his new hat to think. If only he had money. But he was tapped. Tap, tap. And presto! Out of the hat came a flurry of aces, a pair of opera tickets, and something else. Onto the ground they rolled, juicy and crisp, used to lure unsuspecting horses into vice. Carrots are always nice. But would Flo think so? It was worth a try, and when Flo appeared, Buddy puffed out his chest and proudly held out his prize. She smiled. Was she taken by his animal magnetism? It seemed she was. Heaven, Buddy was in heaven, about to find the happiness he seeked. But Grumpy could see this thoroughbred dame and his pal, the big palooka, would not be dancing cheek to cheek. Flo's heart was beating pity-pat, but it wasn't Buddy she was staring at. It was Dashing Dan, fresh from the track, still dressed in his racing silks. When Buddy grasped this fact, he lowered his head. "No biggie, Grumps," he said. "There'll be others." But Buddy knew there would never be another as fine as Flo. And as a tear trickled down his swarthy muzzle, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Grumpy, sensitive nag that he was, put a tender arm around his chum, shared his hot dog, and suggested a fitting revenge. Buddy smiled. He loved the plan, even though it was very naughty. The audience was shocked. All popcorn eating stopped. Grumpy, loath to offend, looked straight into the lens for guidance. There was debate, ethics and taste, but finally, a feisty old lady in the third row spoke for them all. "Go ahead, Grumpy, make that call!" And so he did. "Hello, friendly Fred, about that job." When the dog food truck arrived, Buddy tied Carrots to the bumper and shouted, "Danny, look!" Danny saw. He twitched his jaw. And as the truck drove off, Dashing Dan gave chase. Set some kind of record. Poor Dan. He was fast, but he was dim. And needless to say, he was never seen again. Sadly, Flo didn't rush into Buddy's arms as was hoped, although years later they would share some unbridled moments. Then she met Bill the Stallion. But that's another story, and not for innocent ears. After the horses stopped giggling, Buddy surprised Grumpy with the opera tickets. Dress circle, best seats in the house. They arrived at 10 after 8, not a second too late. The orchestra finished the prelude by Verdi. The curtain opened. Then Rex made his grand entrance, launched into his aria, and sounded pretty good until he abruptly stopped and scratched. Fleas, fleas, and more fleas. The more Rex scratched, the more he shed. Big fluffs of fur. The bubble bath had made him smooth, all right. So smooth that soon he'd be slicker than a baby's bottom. The audience grew restless. Tomatoes splattered the stage, and then someone shouted, "Get the hook! This prima doggie's career is kaput!" Waiting in the wings, Buddy plopped a mop over his head to play the lovesick daughter, and Grumpy, for his role as the hunchback father, propped pillows under a robe. What a finale! They pulled out all the stops and brayed with abandon. "Bravo! Bravo!" The audience loved it. Encore! Encore! Light bulbs flashed. Women threw roses. Fireworks exploded. Then a limo, driven by a donkey in a plaid suit, came to whisk them off to Hollywood. "Nay!" roared Buddy. "Hey!" yelled Grumpy. "That's my ear." "Huh?" said Buddy, startled. "Wake up! You're dreaming." "Oh, no," said Buddy. "Where are we? Not home." "Where'd you think? Beverly Hills again?" Buddy looked up and saw Mrs. Mumps, and all the applause was just Dave the horseshoer pounding away. Then he saw Dashing Dan tearing around the arena, and there was Flo frolicking in the pasture while Bill the Stallion sniffed the air. And there were the kids, and the moms, and the buzzing flies, too. Nuts. "Grumps," said Buddy, "I may still be snoozing, but does that gate look ajar?" "Pal, it does," said Grumpy. "How right you are." And so, move over Bob, move over Bing, and fade out as Buddy and Grumpy galloped into the sunset and onto the silver screen. And the rest, as they say, is history. Their act was infectious. In a big way, the four-legged craze left the crowd dazed. And to this day, there are some folks the world round who can't stop singing and dancing and horsing around. And many of those never even heard of Buddy and Grumpy.